The idea here would be if you drew a line down the back of your butt at setup, you want to feel as though when you start your downswing, your center of your pelvis or your belt buckle or your hips are pushing back. Even if they don't actually go all the way back, that would be the sensation. I think there's two great ways to practice this. One of them I learned from my buddy JT Thomas, and what he did is I took my normal setup, and what he likes to do as a drill is you essentially put a wall here, or pretend there's a wall here in front of you. This one's a little more difficult to set up, but a good visual. So pretend there's a wall in front of your hips. When I go up to the top of my backswing, assume that left hip is on the wall. My feel to start my downswing is I'm trying to get my left hip about a foot behind where that wall is, okay? Now, you're probably not actually gonna get your hip a foot back. The idea is we don't want your hips to go in towards the ball. That leads to nothing good for most of us. So if you feel like your left hip's going back a foot, you might just stay in the freaking same spot, or you might go back an inch or two, which is perfectly fine. I really like that drill as a first indicator. Hey guys, Eric here, back outside at the Bethlehem Golf Club. We're going to talk today about the PGA Tour secrets to starting the downswing, and two secrets we're going to talk about in particular. Quickly, before we dive in, I want to talk to you about CogornoGolf.com. Now, we built CogornoGolf.com to remove the barrier between you and I so I can help you improve your game. We have over 500 exclusive videos on the site, not available anywhere else. When you combine that with the ability to send in your swing for feedback from myself and the coaches, we have everything you need to take your game to the next level. Whether you're looking to fix your slice, break 100, improve your chipping or putting, whatever it is, we have a solution at CogornoGolf.com for you. I would love to see you there. We'll include a link down in the description down below. Now, PGA Tour secrets to starting your downswing. And there's really two key pieces here that I want to talk about. We're going to talk macro, what they are, we'll show you some examples, and then we'll dive into the details. So, PGA Tour secrets. What do good players do during the downswing? If we look at this from the perspective of their body motion, and then we separate that from their arms and hands, most all great ball strikers do the same things. And what that is in terms of the body motions, they steepen their body motion. So from the down the line perspective, good players steepen their body motions. And to simplify that, to say, what does steepen even mean? What I'm going to say is good players, their hips or pelvis work back away from the ball, or they create depth to start the downswing, and their upper body and head work down and forward. So if we look at those two key pieces, good players steepen the body motions, upper body down and forward, which is forward bend, and then the hips or the pelvis are pushing back and creating depth. That's the steepening part that they all do. The second part with the arms and hands that they do is they shallow the arms and hands and they shallow the club. So if you watch when I do this motion and I push my hips back and my upper body starts to work forward, what happens to the shaft here? It gets steep, right? My arms and hands get out in front of me. The shaft gets a little bit vertical out here. So what do I have to do? I don't want to take away those body motions. I just said all good ball strikers do that. But what I do need to do is learn to shallow the arms and hands as I do that. That means as my upper body's going down, as my hips are pushing back, I need to keep my left arm in some amount. I need to keep my left bicep pressed against my pec. I need to learn how to shallow the club as I steepen my body motions. What I see a lot of amateur golfers do is on the downswing, they do the exact opposite. They shallow their body, meaning hips forward, head works away from the ball and ground, and then the arms and hands get steep. And then you look something like this at impact. That would be not the pattern we want. What we want is the opposite, steepen the body, shallow the arms and hands. Hopefully that part's clear. And again, we'll show you some visuals throughout here to show you that. Getting the upper body closer to the ground, the hips deeper, while learning to shallow the arms and hands is really the blueprint to great ball striking. Let's talk about how to do the body motions first, then we'll talk arms and hands second. So the first part to learn is how to steepen the body angles. And remember, we said two parts. You gotta make the upper body go down more, and then you have to make the lower body go back more. How to make the upper body go down more. Now I have a little makeshift practice station here. And if I were to take my setup, what the feel is, and I got this stick here just vertically, I'm trying to get the stick basically right over the golf ball. And I'm looking for a visual where if I drew the line down the front of my head, I wanna feel as I start down, like my head is going in forward of that line. Notice I'm not doing that by going towards my toes. My pressure in my feet stay the same. My upper body, my head, feels like it goes down and forward. My chest feels like it goes down towards the ground. Quite literally, I'm getting closer and compressing the ground with the upper body. If you're someone who struggles with early extension, that's gonna feel way down and forward when you do that piece. But for me, the sensation is I have like a piece of glass or a wall here, or the stick for visual. I go up to the top and I feel like I'm trying to push my head down and forward towards that stick. I don't want to literally hit myself in the face with that, but I want to feel like I go down and forward towards that stick motion. That's just the upper body piece. Now, if I were to remove this here for a second, and I hit with that same feel, I'm trying to feel the same thing. There's a wall here, and my head is trying to push down and forward as I start down. That's going to be the steepening of the upper body piece as I work down. Now, that's just part one. Again, remember, you have to match these pieces up. You have to match all three of them. Upper body steepens. That's going to help compression, really help you if you have any early extension issues. But that's just part one. I'd recommend the wall outside the head pushing into it. But let's talk about how to push the hips back. So pushing the hips back or gaining depth to the pelvis, the idea here would be if you drew a line down the back of your butt at setup, you want to feel as though when you start your downswing, your center of your pelvis or your belt buckle or your hips are pushing back. Even if they don't actually go all the way back, that would be the sensation. I think there's two great ways to practice this. One of them I learned from my buddy JT Thomas, and what he did is I took my normal setup, and what he likes to do as a drill is you essentially put a wall here or pretend there's a wall here in front of you. This one's a little more difficult to set up, but a good visual. So pretend there's a wall in front of your hips. When I go up to the top of my backswing, assume that left hip is on the wall. My feel to start my downswing is I'm trying to get my left hip about a foot behind where that wall is, okay? Now, you're probably not actually gonna get your hip a foot back. The idea is we don't want your hips to go in towards the ball. That leads to nothing good for most of us. So if you feel like your left hip's going back a foot, you might just stay in the freaking same spot, or you might go back an inch or two, which is perfectly fine. I really like that drill as a first indicator. So if you want hip depth, right, what the PGA Tour players do, when you start down, I feel like that wall is on the inside part of my left hip, and I'm pushing my hip back behind me, my left leg back behind me like a foot. So that's the visual I'm gonna get. Stick is here, I could rehearse one. Push my left hip back about a foot to start down as my upper body goes down and forward. And when I do that correctly, right, because I normally go like this. So when I do those correctly, it probably just looks normal. If you have those similar body motions, we need to learn how to do that. So that's one great feel. Let's talk about a second lower body drill. Okay, so the second drill or feel for creating hip depth on the downswing. This is an oldie with just a little bit of a tweak to it. So if I take my normal setup position, I like to see an object behind your left butt cheek or your left leg. Now I have a stick through a bucket. You can use an alignment rod in the ground. You could use a chair, a golf bag, any of that would be fine. Now normally I suggest you put the stick about a hand width behind your left butt cheek. If you've seen videos in the past, that's what we like to do. But for the sake of exaggeration, I have this now here over a grip behind my left butt cheek. So we're gonna call that a foot for the sake of just simplicity. Now my goal is from the top, steepening the downswing, my chest and head work down and forward, my left hip, I wanna feel like it gets back to that stick. Now, are you gonna get back to the stick a foot behind you? Probably not, right? This is just an exaggerated feel if you go too far into. You're not gonna actually hit the stick, but my sensation is my upper body goes down, my hip works back, creating the bend, steepening the body motion so we can shallow the arms after. So let's do one of these, setup rehearsal. I feel like I push that back towards that hip about a foot behind me, and I'm gonna try and get back into that same spot as I work through impact here. And as I do those, I'm hitting those about as good as I can. I would assume from down the line that just looks normal. I probably just maintained hip deck, but it takes me pushing back a foot to get that. So if you move forward, you need to feel that as well. That's how you steepen the downswing. You get the body moving forward, head into the wall. You get the hips working back away from the wall or into this wall. If that by itself makes you hit it really good. If your arms and hands are already shallow, then you're golden. If not, if you're already too steep, you gotta watch this next part about how to shallow the arms and hands. Okay, so if you need to learn how to shallow the arms and hands, we've got a ton of videos on it. The practice station I would use here would be the one we use in a lot of these videos because it works great. So when I take my setup position, I want to have an object in my way to help me train what my arms, hands, and club are going to feel like. And there's two little pieces here that will really help. I got a range bucket and a stick angled through it. And the position you put the stick in would be if I put the club down my toe line, parallel to the ground, it's about a hand above the shaft there. So the leading edge is right over the club here vertically, and it's about a hand above it. What I want to feel during my downswing as I steepen my body is that my left arm stays in behind me, right? My shoulders don't open right away quickly. They stay closed for just a little bit. My hands and arms are in more, I'm under the stick, and my visual is actually going to be that I'm getting this stick over 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock on my way through. I saw this one first from George Gankis with the 10 to 4 station. Love it. Great, great, great drill. So I got the stick in, I'm up to the top, left arm stays in, shoulders stay closed, club feels like it's parallel to this stick, and I'm feeling my chest go down and my butt go back. Now again, you might work one of these pieces at the same time, do the body stuff first, then do the arm stuff, or do the arm stuff first, then do the body stuff. Could be too much at the same time, but this is how you do the shallow piece. And eventually you're gonna learn how to hit and being underneath the stick. And that's gonna help really shallow the arms and hands, hit the ball much higher, more draw basis, and the more and more you shallow, the more and more you can steepen the downswing. They work together like pluses and minuses. The opposite's also true. The more and more you steepen the downswing body motions, the more and more you can shallow. Good players, PGA Tour players, the secret for them is steepening the body motions, shallowing the arms and hands. You should do the same thing too. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. If you liked the video, do us a favor, click the like button down below. Click the notification bell. Also, please subscribe. If you did like this video, you're gonna see 2 videos here on the screen above. Both of them more about transition, how to start the downswing. If you found this helpful, you really like those 2, give it a shot.